Hi there, these comments are for QL, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT. I'm listening to your pronunciation pretest for vowel and consonant sounds. And so far, I've listened to part A. Here are my comments. I think you need to work a little bit more on pronunciation lesson 14, pronunciation lesson 11, 14, 15, 19, and 23, which is good news for you, which means you don't have a lot of problems in this area. So I do recommend you go through all my pronunciation lessons at least one time, but focus more on lesson 11, 14, 15, 19, and 23. Now I'm going to listen to part B. You're going to answer the first question.
The first question. Now I'm a graduate student major in accounting.
I would say I'm a graduate student majoring in accounting.
When I go to college, I choose accounting as my major, and I studied for it.
You want to say after college, I chose accounting as my major. So you're talking about something in the past, so you want to use past tense verbs.
The accountancy school asked me if I want to go further education, and I said yes. So
I would say they asked me if I wanted to further my education, probably is a better way to say that.
I became a graduate student in the same school.
If you say I became, you might say therefore I became a graduate student in the same school. So the reason you can use therefore is to kind of show that cause-effect relationship makes it easier to understand your idea.
Had a lot of science classes like mathematics, physics, and chemistry, and I was pretty good at them. As for my working history, well, as a student, I don't have any working experience
Okay.
except for I had been an intern for a very short time.
I would say except that I had been, not except for. So if you say except, you want to use that after because that allows you to introduce a subject and a verb after that.
The first question.
Okay, so far I've learned a little bit about you, so I'm going to get ready to listen to your next Let's listen to the next response.
The third question. First, because now I am trying to apply for a PhD program
Okay.
in accounting. It's better to get my PhD diploma from a famous and prominent university. So I want to study my English and prepare for my TOEFL and
All right.
prepare for the TOEFL so I can get a better grade and apply for a better university. Second, I think.
Now, when you're speaking, you're having a lot of pauses in there. You're also not changing your intonation. So you need to have fewer pauses. You need to vary your tone more. You're kind of like saying, I am preparing for a PhD degree. If I want to get into a good university, I need to get a good TOEFL score. So you're not varying that tone, and that's going to make it tough for you on the TOEFL exam. But we probably don't want to solve all these problems all at once. So the main thing for right now is to work on these vowel and consonant sounds. And once you're done with this, then we can work on other areas of your pronunciation after you do the next retest.
Communication is very important, and as we are there are being less boundary between countries, which means we have to communicate more with people from other countries.
So what I would say, the way you're saying that with all those pauses, just say, because we have fewer boundaries between countries, we need to be able to communicate much better with each other. So you have to kind of group ideas together, basically about 4 to 5 stress words you group together, then you have a pause. And within that group, you want to blend the words together. All right, let's keep going.
Since America is a superpower, it will benefit me a lot if I can uh, use English well.
All right. And let's listen to your last
Third question.
response.
First, because now I am.
Let's listen to your last recording here.
The third question. I want to get a better grade in my speaking test, which is, which I hope to be 26.
Okay. 26. Very tough score. Based on your speaking right now, based on hearing you speak, when you did the pretest, you did a pretty good job on it, but those were individual words. Now, when I'm hearing you put together sentences and conversations, you got a long ways to go. Simply put, it seems to me like you're thinking. You might be thinking in your first language. You're thinking of what you want to say, then you're trying to communicate it. That might help explain so many pauses and hesitations that you're having. But whatever the reason, you have to speak more fluently. You have to speak faster.
Because some famous universities wants the potential applicants to to meet this goal. And I will have this TOEFL exam in 40 days.
Okay.
And now I know my speaking is pretty poor. But I am I want to give it a shot.
All right. And I don't want to discourage you or anything, but there's not, I don't know. What is your speaking score right now? I mean, have you taken the TOEFL before? Based on what I'm hearing right now, if I were guessing, I would probably put your speaking score maybe at maybe 10 or 12 points out of 30. That's about it. Let's say it's even 15 points out of 30. To improve 11 points in 40 days, just it's not going to happen. So, however, wherever you are now today, you will definitely be better 40 days from now. I guarantee you that. So, what I recommend is start doing speaking practice, start sending me speaking every day or every other day, and then I'll provide you feedback. And maybe in the beginning, when you're doing the speaking practice test, it might be at first a good strategy for you to write out the entire response. Write it on a piece of paper. Make sure it's organized. You have an introduction. You have body paragraphs and a conclusion, and everything kind of fits together. And then practice it, practice reading it several times, and then finally post it for me so I can comment on it. And eventually, as you do this every day, maybe it takes you 40 minutes to do one practice test, but you're doing a lot of good language use practice, a lot of pronunciation practice, grammar, vocabulary practice, practice organizing and developing points. All these things will help you in the long run. That's the key.
Although time is limited, but I can practice a lot. And
So what do? You can practice a lot, right? So I'm going to recommend 4 to 5 movies every week. Watch them. Really pay attention to the speakers, how they talk, their mannerisms, their gestures, their tone, their pacing, all of that. Watch TV shows, documentaries, science programs, history programs, things of that nature. That's going to also be very good for you. As you watch the programs, you can take notes and write the notes down on a sheet of paper and then use your notes to orally summarize the lectures that you're listening to. So that not only helps you with, speaking, it helps you with listening, note taking. All of these things are important for you for the TOEFL exam.
I'm pretty confident with the help of you and other teachers, I can get the dream score. Well, thank you.
Yes, you can. You can get the dream score, but the question is, can you do it in 40 days? Can you get 26 on the speaking in 40 days based on what I just heard? And the answer is no, probably not. So I would expect, based on your speaking abilities right now, you're looking at least 3, maybe even as many as 6 months of very, very tough practice. If you practice every day, 1 or 2 hours every day, it may take as many as 6 months. 26 is not an easy score to get, right? So you have to have a lot of improvement to make that goal. As part of your pronunciation practice, you have a question that you want to ask, and I'm going to listen to that now. Now, the next time you do the recording, try to make it louder. So you have to turn your recorder volume up. And the louder you make the recording, the easier it is for me to diagnose problems you might be having with either your pronunciation, maybe language use, maybe topic development.
By the way, there is another question I want to ask you.
Instead of saying there is another, I would just say I have another question I want to ask you.
Well, you can see there is a difference between the answers of my part A and part B.
Yes.
And I think the explanation is if I don't know, if I met a word in part A and I don't know, I found it out using a dictionary.
Oh, okay.
In part B, I am being used to pronouncing in the wrong way. So maybe.
But it's not just pronunciation problems that you're having. You're having language use problems. You're having problems with general fluency, being able to speak in sustained, coherent discourse without a lot of pauses and hesitations. When you're speaking, you have a lot of interruptions in what you're saying.
The problem is not the way I pronounced a single vowel or constant.
Yeah.
Or a word.
Yeah.
But it is, I don't know what is the right way to pronounce the exact word, because I have ignored the pronunciation of these words for many years. So I think it is a very tough problem, because I don't have time to look through these words, because it is a very
Okay, so I think what you're saying is sometimes you haven't paid a lot of attention to how words are pronounced by maybe how they're spelled. And in English, we have what's called unusual consonants and unusual sounds and consonant sound spelling patterns. So part of what you can do is, as you go through, and I would recommend go through all my pronunciation lessons, really pay attention to the paragraphs and the sentence readings at the end of each video, and that'll help get you used to more the sound and spelling patterns of American English. And this is, you're also admitting that you've neglected, for whatever reason, for many years, you've neglected your speaking and pronunciation abilities. You're probably spending time worrying about other areas of your English, maybe reading or maybe writing or maybe listening, but you haven't really done a lot with the speaking until now. And now you have a 40-day deadline, right? So if you totally immerse yourself in English right now, what does that mean? That means you must speak English all day, every day, even at night. You wake up in the morning, you're still speaking English. You have to make a point for the next 40 days to pretty much use only English 99.9% of the time. Everything that you do in the morning, when you're getting ready for breakfast, you're watching the news in English. You're driving in your car, you're listening to the radio in English, or you're listening to something in English so you can practice. So you got to really surround yourself right now with a lot of English. And that will help. Now, will it help you reach 26 in 40 days? Probably not, but eventually you can reach your goal, right? I've had a lot of students in my online TOEFL course. I just had a guy who got 27 points on the speaking. He got 110 on the TOEFL overall. So he got a good, strong score. He got a good speaking score. And guess what? He learned English through gaming. Yes, playing video games with other players. He lives in Brazil, and he played a lot of video games with people living in the United States. And he had on his headset and his headphones, so he was talking to other players all the time. And he got a lot of practice just doing that, believe it or not. So you have to think of different kinds of things. What kinds of activities can you do that suit your personality, that are going to give you the practice you need to make the improvements that you want to make, right?
Because it is very time consuming, yes. So I really don't know what to do. Well, thank you.
Good.
There is another question.
Well, the first step is agree to use English all day, every day. That is step one. Remember, a famous Chinese philosopher once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step." The first step is you commit yourself. You commit yourself to using English 100% of the time, every day. Right? That's your step one. Step two is you start doing speaking practice, and then you start submitting speaking practice to me. I'll start giving you feedback there, right? The next step is to find opportunities to speak English every day, to really use the language, right? Like I was saying before, increase your exposure. That's what you do. So if you're only focusing on the speaking, like the TOEFL speaking lessons, like my TOEFL speaking bootcamp course, just follow the guide. I have lessons in there. I have enough practice in there that will help you to reach your goal. It really will help you. And practice makes perfect, all right? Okay, thank you for doing the pretest. I hope that I've given you some good comments that can help get you going in the right direction. Okay, in the last part of the video, I want to give you what I call an intelligibility score, right? So this is where it is. So on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 is a near native speaker, 1 is a high beginner. Yeah, I'm probably going to put you in the 2 range on this. So you're somewhat intelligible. You begin to initiate conversations, retell stories or experiences, but it's hard for you to put together a long string of ideas without having a lot of pauses in there. So I think too, unfortunately, So I'm going to put you low intermediate level in your speaking abilities. I'll put you at 2.4 out of 7. So your goal when you finish the pronunciation part of my course, your goal is not near native speaker, but to at least go to the advanced level of 5.1 or higher. So you need to go you need to go 3 levels higher here. And I'm telling you, not an easy thing to do. But remember what I said in the video. I've given you some good ideas. And the more you practice, the more exposure you get, the better your speaking is going to become, right? All right. Thank you for doing this pre-test.